Hello and welcome. Welcome to our second and I do believe final installment of Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach. So,
Second and I do believe final
oh, hey.
installment of
Let me go and turn
The
this
Adventures
other
of a Reluctant Messiah.
thing off. Okay. Now, all right. So we're getting into chapter 7. And I'm just going to start. So welcome all who arrive, any lurkers and listeners out there. I hope you enjoy this book. I love this book. 7. Wednesday morning. It's 6 o'clock. I'm not awake and boom. There's this enormous noise, sudden and violent, as some high explosive symphony. Instant 1,000-voice choirs, words in Latin, violins and timpani and trumpets to shatter glass. The ground shuddered. The fleet rocked on her wheels, and I came out from under the wing like a 400-volt cat. First, straight out, exclamation point. The sky was cold fire sunrise, the clouds alive in wild paint, but all of it blurred in the dynamite crescendo. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Off the music, off it. Shimoda yelled so loud and so furious I could hear him over the din, and the sound stopped at once, echoes rolling off and away and away and away. Then it was a gentle holy song, quiet as the breeze, Beethoven in a dream. He was unimpressed. Look, I said off it. The music stopped. Woof, he said. I just looked at him. There is a time and place for everything, right? He said. Well, time and place. Well, a little celestial music is fine, in the privacy of your own mind, and maybe on special occasions, but the first thing in the morning and turned up that loud, what are you doing? What am I doing? Dawn, I was sound asleep. What do you mean? What am I doing? He shook his head, shrugged his shoulders helplessly, snorted, and went back to his sleeping bag under the wing. The handbook was upside down in the grass where it had fallen. I turned it over carefully and read, Argue for your limitations. And sure enough, they're yours. Okay, so yeah. Hey, welcome, Michelle. Hello. Welcome, Heidi. I'm going to repeat that. Argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. All right. There is a lot I didn't understand about messiahs. Chapter 8. We finished the day in Hammond, Wisconsin, flying a few Monday passengers. Then we walked to town for dinner and started back. Dawn, I want to grant you that this life can be interesting or dull or whatever we choose to make it. But even in my brilliant times, I have never been able to figure out why we're here in the first place. Tell me something about that. We passed the hardware store, closed, and the movie theater, open. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And instead of answering, he stopped, turned back on the sidewalk. You have money, don't you? Lots. What's the matter? Let's see the show, he said. You buy? I don't know, Dawn. You go ahead. I'll get back to the airplanes. Don't like to leave them alone too long. What was suddenly so important about a motion picture? The planes are okay. Let's go to the show. It's already started, so we come in late. He was already buying his ticket. I followed him into the dark, and we sat down near the back of the theater. There might have been 50 people around us in the gloom. I forgot why we came, after a while, and got caught up in the story, which I've always thought is a classic movie. Anyway, this would be my third time seeing Sundance. The time in the theater spiraled and stretched the way it does in a good film, and I watched a while for technical reasons. How each scene was designed and fit to the next, why this scene now and not later on. I tried to look at it that way, but got spun up in the story and forgot. About the part where Butch and Sundance are surrounded by the entire Bolivian army, almost at the end, Shimoda touched my shoulder. I leaned toward him, watched the movie, wishing he would have kept whatever he was going to say till after it was over. Richard? Yeah. Why are you here? It's a good movie, Dawn. Shh. Butch and Sundance, blood all over them. We're talking about why they ought to go to Australia. Why is it good? He said. It's fun. Shh, I'll tell you later. Snap out of it. Wake up. It's all illusions. I was irked. Donald, There's just a few minutes more, and then we can talk all you want, but let me watch the movie, okay? He whispered intensely, dramatically. Richard, why are you here? Look, I'm here because you asked me to come in here. I turned back and tried to watch to the end. You didn't have to come. You could have said no, thank you. I like the movie. A man in the front turned to look at me for a second. I like the movie, Dawn. Is there anything wrong with that? Nothing at all, he said. And he didn't say another word until it was over, and we were walking again past the used tractor lot and out into the dark towards the field and the airplanes. It would be raining before long. Hey, welcome everyone. Hello, Karen. And if I missed anyone, welcome. It would be raining before long. I thought about his odd behavior in the theater. You do everything for a reason, Dawn. Sometimes. Why the movie? Why did you all of a sudden want to see Sundance? You asked a question. Yes. Do you have the answer? That is my answer. We went to the movie because you asked a question. The movie was the answer to your question. He was laughing at me. I knew it. What was my question? There was a long, pained silence. Your question, Richard, was that even in your brilliant times, you have never been able to figure out why we are here. I remembered. And the movie was my answer. Yes. Oh. You don't understand? He said. No. That was a good movie, he said. But the world's best movie is still an illusion, is it not? The pictures aren't even moving. They only appear to move. Changing light that seems to move across a flat screen set up in the dark? Well, yes. I was beginning to understand. The other people anywhere who go to any movie show, why are they there when it is all only illusions? Well, it's entertainment, I said. Fun, that's right. 1. Could be educational. Good. It is always that. Learning. 2. Fantasy, escape. It's fun. It's fun too. 1. Technical reasons to see how a film is made. Learning. 2. Escape from boredom. Escape, you said it. Social, to be with friends, I said. Reason for going, but not for seeing the film. That's fun. Anyway, 1. Whatever I came up with fit his 2 fingers. People see films for fun or for learning or for both together. And a movie is like a lifetime, Dawn. Is that right? Yes. Then why would anybody choose a bad lifetime, a horror movie? They not only come to the horror movie for fun, they know it is going to be a horror movie when they walk in, he said. But why? Do you like horror films? No. Do you ever see them? No. But some people spend a lot of money and time to see horror or soap opera problems that to other people are dull and boring. He left the question for me to answer. Yes. You don't have to see their films and they don't have to see yours. That is called freedom. I feel like I have a hair in my eye. Okay. But why would anybody want to be horrified or bored? Because they think they deserve it for horrifying somebody else, or they like the excitement of horrification, or that boring is the way they think films have to be. Can you believe that lots of people, for reasons that are very sound to them, enjoy believing that they are helpless in their own films? No, you can't. No, I can't, I said. Until you understand that, you will wonder why some people are unhappy. They are unhappy because they have chosen to be unhappy. And Richard, that is all right. Dude, I love this book. All right. We are game playing, fun having creatures. We are the otters of the universe. We cannot die. We cannot hurt ourselves any more than illusions on the screen can be hurt. But we can believe we're hurt in whatever agonizing detail we want. We can believe we're victims, killed and killing, shuttered around by good luck and bad luck. Many lifetimes? I asked. How many movies have you seen? Oh, films about living on this planet, about living on other planets, anything that's not space and time is all movie and all illusion, he said. But for a while, we can learn a huge amount and have a lot of fun with our illusions, can we not? How far do you take this movie thing, Dawn? How far do you want? You saw the film tonight partly because I wanted to see it. Lots of people choose lifetimes because they enjoy doing things together. The actors in the film tonight have played together in other films, before or after, depends on which film you've seen first, or you can see them at the same time on different screens. We buy tickets to these films, paying admission by agreeing to believe in the reality of space and the reality of time. Neither one is true, but anyone who doesn't want to pay that price cannot appear on this planet or in any space-time system at all. Are there some people who don't have any lifetimes at all in time space? There are some people who never go. Are there some people who never go to the movies? I see. They get their learning in different ways. Right you are, he said, pleased with me. Space-time is a fairly primitive school, but a lot of people stay with the illusion, even if it is boring, and they don't want the lights turned on early. Who writes these movies, Dawn? Isn't it strange how much we know if only we ask ourselves instead of somebody else? Who writes these movies, Richard? Maybe I should get this thing in here. All right. Who writes these movies, Richard? We do, I said. Who acts? Us. Who's the cameraman, the projectionist, the theater manager, the ticket taker, the distributor? Who watches them all happen? Who is free to walk out in the middle, anytime, change the plot whenever? Who is free to see the same film over and over again? Let me guess, I said. Anybody who wants to? Is that enough freedom for you? He said. And is that why movies are so popular? That we instinctively know that they are a parallel of our own lifetimes? Maybe so, maybe not. Doesn't matter much, does it? What's the projector? Mind, I said. No, imagination. It's our imagination, no matter what you say. What's the film? He asked. Got me. Whatever we give our consent to put into our imagination? Maybe so, Dawn. You can hold a reel of film in your hands, he said, and it's all finished and complete. Beginning, middle, end are all there that same second. The same the same millionths of a second. The film exists beyond the time that it records. And if you know what the movie is, you know generally what's going to happen before you walk into the theater. There's going to be battles and excitement, winners and losers, romance, disaster. You know that's all going to be there. But in order to get caught up and swept away by it, in order to enjoy it to its most, you have to put it in a projector and let it go through the lens minute by minute. Any illusion requires space and time to be experienced. So you pay your nickel and you get your ticket and you settle down and forget what's going on inside, or you forget what's going on outside the theater, and the movie begins for you. And nobody's really hurt. That's just tomato sauce blood. No, it's blood all right, he said, but it might as well be tomato sauce for the effect it has on our real life. And reality? Reality is divinely different, Richard. A mother doesn't care what part her child plays in his games. One day bad guy, next day good guy. The is doesn't even know about your illusions and games. It only knows itself and us in its likeness, perfect and finished. I'm not sure I want to be perfect and finished. Talk about boredom. Look at the sky, he said. And it was such a quick subject change that I looked at the sky. There were some broken cirrus way up high, the first bit of moonlight silvering the edges. Pretty sky, I said. Is it a perfect sky? Well, it's always a perfect sky, Dawn. Are you telling me that even though it's changing every second, the sky is always a perfect sky? Gee, I'm smart. Yes. And the sea is always a perfect sea, and it's always changing too, he said. If perfection is stagnation, then heaven is a swamp. And the is ain't hardly no swamp cookie. Isn't hardly no swamp cookie, I corrected absently. Perfect, and all the time changing. Yeah, I'll buy that. You bought it a long time ago, if you insist on time. I turned to him as we talked. Doesn't it get boring for you, Dawn, staying on just this one dimension? Oh, am I staying on just this one dimension? He said. Are you? Why is it that everything I say is wrong? Is everything you say wrong? He said. I think I'm in the wrong business. You think maybe real estate? He said. Real estate or insurance. There's a future in real estate if you want one. Okay, I'm sorry, I said. I don't want a future or a past. I'd just as soon become a nice old master of the world of illusion. Looks like maybe in another week. Well, Richard, I hope not that long. I looked at him carefully, but he wasn't smiling. Ooh. Chapter 9. The days blurred one into another. We flew as always, but I had stopped counting summer by the names of towns or by the money we earned from passengers. I began counting the summer by the things I learned, the talks we had when flying was done, and by the miracles that happened now and then along the way, to the time I knew at last that they aren't miracles at all. Imagine the universe beautiful and just and perfect, the handbook said to me once, and continued, then be sure of one thing. The is has imagined it quite a bit better than you have. Imagine the universe beautiful and just and perfect. Then be sure of one thing. The is has imagined it quite a bit better than you have. Okay. Chapter 10. The afternoon was quiet. An occasional passenger now and then. Time between I practiced vaporizing clouds. Time between I practiced vaporizing clouds. I have been a flight instructor, and I know that students always make easy things hard. I do know better, yet there was I, a student again, frowning fiercely at my cumulus targets. I needed more teaching for once than practice. Shimoda was stretched out under the fleet's wing, pretending to be asleep. I kicked him softly on the arm, and he opened his eyes. I can't do it, I said. Yes, you can, he said, and closed his eyes again. Or he probably said, yes, you can. Dawn, I've tried. Just when I think something's happening, the cloud strikes back and goes poofing up bigger than ever. He sighed and sat up. Pick me a cloud. An easy one, please. I chose the biggest, meanest cloud in the sky, 3,000 feet tall, bursting up white smoke from hell. The one over the silo yonder, I said. The one that's going black now. He looked at me in silence. Why is it you hate me? It's because I like you, Dawn, that I ask these things, I smiled. You need challenge. If you'd rather, I could pick something smaller. He sighed again and turned back to the sky. I'll try. Now, which one? I looked, and the cloud, the monster with its million tons of rain, was gone. Just an ungainly blue sky hole where it had been. Yike, I said quietly. A job worth doing, he quoted. Much as I would like to accept the praise which you heap upon me, I must in all honesty tell you this. It's easy. He pointed to a little puff of a cloud overhead. There, your turn. Ready? Go. I looked at the wisp of a thing, and it looked back at me. I thought it gone, thought it empty space where it was, poured visions of heat rays up at it, asked it to reappear somewhere else, and slowly, in 1 minute, in 5, in 7, the cloud at last was gone. Other clouds got bigger, mine went away. You're not very fast, are you? He said. That was my first time. I'm just beginning. Up against the impossible, well, the improbable, and all you can think to say is, I'm not very fast. That was brilliant, and you know it. Amazing. You were so attached to it, and still it disappeared for you. Attached? I was WHOCKING. I was walking that cloud with everything I had. Fireballs, laser beams, vacuum cleaner, and block high. Oh, vacuum cleaner a block high. Negative attachments, Richard. If you really want to remove a cloud from your life, you do not make a big production out of it. You just relax and remove it from your thinking. That's all there is to it. A cloud does not know why it moves in just such a direction and at such a speed, was what the handbook had to say. It feels an impulsion. This is the place to go now. But the sky knows the reasons and the patterns behind all clouds. And you will know, too, when you lift yourself high enough to see beyond horizons. I'll just show you guys, too, that like when I read from the stuff from the handbook, it looks like this. It's so cool. Okay, chapter 11, which starts with another one of those guys. You are never given a wish without also being given the power to make it true. Ooh, that's powerful. I have so many wishes. Oh my gosh. You may have to work for it, however. We had landed in a huge, whoa. We had landed in a huge grazing place next to the 3-acre horse pond, away from towns, somewhere along the line between Illinois and Indiana. No passengers. It was our day off, I thought. Listen, he said. Don't listen. Just stay there quiet and watch. What you are going to see is not any miracle. Read your atomic physics book. A child can walk on water. He told me this, and as though he didn't notice the water was even there, he turned and walked out some yards from shore, on the surface of the horse pond. What it looked like was that the pond was a hot summer mirage over a lake of stone. He stood firm on the surface. Not a wave or ripple splashed over his flying boots. Here, he said, come do it. I saw it with my eyes. It was possible, obviously, because there he stood. So I walked out to join him. It felt like walking on clear blue linoleum, and I laughed. Donald, what are you doing to me? I am merely showing you what everybody learns sooner or later, he said, and you're handy now. But look, the water can be solid. He stamped his foot, and the sound was leather on rock. Or not. He stamped again, and water splashed over both us. Got the feel of that? Try it. How quickly we get used to miracles. In less than a minute, I began to think that walking on water was possible, is natural, well, so what? But if the water is solid now, how can we drink it? Some say we walk on it, Richard. It isn't solid, and it isn't liquid. You and I decide what it's going to be for us. If you want water to be liquid, then it's liquid. Act as if it's liquid, drink it. If you want it to be air, act as if it's air, breathe it. Try. Maybe it's something about the presence of an advanced soul, I thought. Maybe these things are allowed to happen in a certain radius, 50 feet in a circle around them. I knelt on the surface and dipped my hand into the pond, liquid. Then I lay down and put my face into the blue of it and breathed, trusting. I breathed like warm liquid oxygen, no choking or gasping. I sat up and looked a question at him, expecting him to know what was in my mind. Speak, he said. Why do I have to speak? For what you have to say, it's more precise to talk in words. Speak. If we can walk on water and breathe it and drink it, why can't we do the same on land? Yes, good. You will notice. He talked to the shore easily as walking a He walked to the shore easily as walking a painted lake. But when his feet touched the ground, the sand and grass at the edges, he began to sink until, with a few slow steps, he was up to his shoulders in earth and grass. It was as though the pond had suddenly become an island. The land about had turned into sea. He swam for a moment in the pasture, splashing it about him in dark loam drops, then floated on top of it, then rose and walked on it. It was suddenly miraculous to see a man walking on the ground. I stood on the pond and applauded his performance. He bowed and applauded mine. I walked to the edge of the pond, thought the earth to liquid, and touched it with my toe. Ripples spread into the grass in rings. How deep is the ground? I nearly asked aloud. The ground will be as deep as I think it will be. 2 feet deep, I thought. It will be 2 feet deep, and I'll wade. I stepped confidently into the shore and sank over my head. An instant drop-off. It was black underground, scary, and I fought to the surface, holding my breath, flailing out for some solid water, for the edge of the pond to hold on to. He sat on the grass and laughed. You are a remarkable student. Do you know that? I ain't no student at all. Get me out of here. Get yourself out. I stopped struggling I see it solid, and I can climb right out. I see it solid, and I climbed right out, caked and crusted in black dirt. Man, you really get dirty doing this. His own blue shirt and jeans were without spot or mote of dust. Ah, I shook the dirt out of my hair, flapped it out of my ears. Finally, I put my wallet on the grass, walked into the liquid water, and cleaned myself the traditional wet way. I know there's a better way to get clean than this. There's a faster way, yes. Don't tell me, of course. Just sit there and laugh and let me figure it all out for myself. Okay. I finally had to walk, squishing back to the fleet, and changed clothes, hanging the wet stuff on the flying wires to dry. Richard, don't forget what you did today. It is easy to forget our times of knowing, to think they've been dreams or old miracles one time. Nothing good is a miracle. Nothing lovely is a dream. I love this. The world is a dream, you say, and it's lovely sometimes. Sunset, clouds, sky. No, the image is a dream. The beauty is real. Can you see the difference? I nodded, almost understanding. Later, I sneaked and looked in the handbook. The world is your exercise book, the pages on which you do your sums. It is not reality, although you can express reality there if you wish. You are also free to write nonsense or lies, or to tear the pages. Chapter 12. It starts with another little blurb from the book. The original sin is to limit the is. Don't. So chapter 12. Interesting. It was an easy, warm afternoon between rain showers, sidewalks wet on our way out of town. You can walk through walls, can't you, Don? No. When you say no to something, I know it is yes. That means you don't like the way I asked the question, or the way I said the question. We certainly are observant, aren't we? He said. Is the problem with walk or with walls? Yes, and worse. Your question presumes that I exist in one limited place-time and move to another place-time. Today, I'm not in the mood to accept your presumptions about me. I frowned. He knew what I was asking. Why didn't he just answer me straight and let me get on to finding how he does the things? That's my little way of helping you be precise in your thinking, he said mildly. Okay, you can make it appear that you can walk through walls if you want. Is that a better question? Yes, better. But if you want to be precise, don't tell me. I know how to say what I mean. Here is my question. How is it that you can move the illusion of a limited sense of identity expressed in this belief of time-space continuum as your body through the illusion of material restriction that is called a wall? Well done. Okay, wait. I'm actually going to read that again. Okay, here is my question. How is it that you can move the illusion of a limited sense of identity expressed in its belief of a time-space continuum as your body through the illusion of material restriction that is called a wall? Well done, he said. When you ask the question properly, it answers itself, doesn't it? No, the question isn't answered itself. How do you walk through walls? Richard! You had it nearly right and then blew it all to pieces. I cannot walk through walls. When you say that, you're assuming things I don't assume at all. And if I do assume them, the answer is I can't. But it's so hard to put everything so precisely, Dawn. Don't you know what I mean? So just because something is hard, you don't try to do it? Walking was hard at first, but you practiced it, and now you make it look easy. I sighed. Yeah, okay, forget the question. I'll forget it. My question is, can you? He looked at me as though he hadn't a care in the world. So you're saying that body is illusion and wall is illusion, but identity is real, and that can't be hemmed by illusions. I'm not saying that. You're saying that. But it's true, naturally, he said. How do you do it? Richard, anything. You see it already done, and it is. Gee, sounds easy. It's like walking. You wonder how it ever came hard for you to learn. Don, walking through walls, it isn't hard for me now. It is impossible. Do you think that maybe if you say impossible over and over again 1,000 times, that suddenly hard things will become easy for you? I'm sorry, it is possible, and I'll do it when it's right for me to do it. He walks on water, folks, and he is discouraged because he doesn't walk through walls. But that was easy, and this? Argue for your limitations, and you get to keep them, he sang. Did you not a week ago swim in the earth itself? I did that. And is not wall just vertical earth? Does it matter that much to you which direction the illusion runs? Horizontal illusions are conquerable, but vertical illusions aren't. I think you're getting through to me, Don. He looked at me and smiled. The time I get through to you is the time to leave you alone for a while. The last building in town was a feed and grain warehouse, a big place built of orange brick. It was almost as if he had decided to take a different way back to the airplanes, turning down some secret shortcut alley. The shortcut was through a brick wall. He turned abruptly to the right, into the wall, and he was gone. I think now that if I had turned at once with him, I could have gone through too. But I stopped on the sidewalk and looked at the place where he had been. Then I put out my hand and touched the brick. It was solid brick. Same day, Donald, I said. Same day. I walked alone the long way back to the airplanes. Donald, I said when I got to the field, I have come to the conclusion that you just don't live in this world. He looked at me, startled from the top of his wing, where he was learning to pour gas into the tank. Of course not. Can you tell me one person who does? What do you mean, can I tell you one person who does? Me, I live in this world. Excellent, he said, as though through independent study I had uncovered a hidden mystery. Remind me to buy you a lunch today. I marvel at the way you never stop learning. I puzzled over that. He wasn't being sarcastic or ironic. He had meant just what he said. What do you mean? Of course I live in this world. Me and about 4 billion other people. It's you who... Oh, God, Richard, you're serious. Cancel the lunch. No hamburger, no malt, no nothing at all. Here I had thought you had reached this major knowing. He broke off and looked down on me in angry pity. You're sure of that? You live in the same world, do you, as a stockbroker, shall we say? Your life has just been all tumbled and changed, I presume, by the new SEC policy, mandatory review of portfolios with shareholder investment loss more than 50%. You live in the same world as a tournament chess player, do you? With the New York Open going on this week, Petrosian and Fisher and Brown in Manhattan for $500,000 purse. What are you doing in a hayfield in Maitland, Ohio? You, with your 1929 Fleet biplane, landed on a farm field with your major life priorities, farmers' permission, people who want 10-minute airplane rides, Kinner aircraft engine maintenance, and mortal fear of hailstorms. How many people do you think live in your world? You say 4 billion people live in your world. Are you standing way down there on the ground and telling me that 4 billion people do not live... Oh, son of a gun. You are standing way down there on the ground and telling me that 4 billion people do not live in 4 billion separate worlds? Are you going to put that across on me? He panted from his fast talking. Too bad I couldn't have done it as fast as he does. Hello, Michael. Hello. I could almost taste that hamburger with the cheese melting, I said. I'm sorry. I would have been so happy to buy, but that's over and done now. Best forgotten. Son of a gun, right? That was really important and awesome. Hopefully it translated. Though it was the last time I accused him of not living in this world. It took me a long time to understand the words where the handbook opened. If you will practice being functional for a while, if you will practice being fictional for a while, you will understand that fictional characters are sometimes more real than people with bodies and heartbeats. Ooh. Okay, 13, another little blurb from the book, the handbook. Your conscience is the measure of the honesty of your selfishness. Listen to it carefully. Ooh. 13, which is also like the death card in tarot, death and rebirth. Your conscience is the measure of the life. Your conscience is the measure of the honesty of your selfishness. Listen to it carefully. Okay, so 13. We are all free to do whatever we want to do, he said that night. Isn't that simple and clean and clear? Isn't that the great way to run a universe? Almost. You forgot a pretty important part, I said. Oh? We are all free to do what we want to do, as long as we don't hurt somebody else, I chided. I know you mean that, but you ought to say what you mean. There was a sudden shambling sound in the dark, and I looked at him quickly. Did you hear that? Yeah, sounds like there's somebody. He got up, walked into the dark. He laughed suddenly, said a name I couldn't catch. It's okay, I heard him say. No, we'd be glad to have you. No need you standing around. Come on, you're welcome, really. The voice was heavily accented, not quite Russian nor Czech, more Transylvanian. Thank you. I do not wish to impose myself. Thank you. Oh, dang it. I don't know. Czech, Russian. I do not. Dude, I should learn voices, right? I do not wish to impose myself upon your evening. The man he brought with him to the firelight was, well, he was unusual to find in a Midwest night. A small, lean, wolf-like fellow, frightening to the eye, dressed in evening clothes, a black cape lined in red satin. He was uncomfortable in the light. I was passing by, he said. The field is a shortcut to my house. Is he? Shimoda did not believe the man, knew he was lying, and at the same time did all he could to keep from laughing out loud. I hope to understand before long. Make yourself comfortable, I said. Can we help you at all? I really didn't feel that helpful, but he was so shrinking. I did want him to be at ease if he could be. He looked on me with a desperate smile that turned me to ice. Yes, you can help me. I need this very much, or I would not ask. May I drink your blood? Just some? It is my food. I need human blood. Maybe it was the accent. He didn't know English that well, or I didn't understand his words, but I was on my feet quicker than I had been in many a month, hay flying into the fire from my quickness. The man stepped back. I'm generally harmless, but I am not a small person, and I could have looked threatening. He turned his head away. Sir, I'm sorry. Please forget that I said anything about blood. But you see, what are you saying? I was the more fierce because I was scared. What in the hell are you saying, mister? I don't know what you are. Are you some kind of vamp? Shimoda cut me off before I could say the word. Richard, our guest was talking, and you interrupted. Please go ahead, sir. My friend is a little hasty. Donald, I said, this guy, be quiet. That was, okay. That surprised me so much that I was quiet. He looked a sort of terrifying question at the man, caught from his native darkness into our firelight. Please to understand, I did not choose to be born vampire. It is unfortunate. I do not have many friends, but I must have a certain small amount of fresh blood every night, or I writhe in terrible pain, longer than that without it, and I cannot live. Please, I will be deeply hurt. I will die if you do not allow me to suck your blood. Just a small amount, more than a pint I do not need. He advanced a step toward me, licking his lips, thinking that Shimoda somehow controlled me and would make me submit. One more step and there will be blood, all right, mister. You touch me and you die. I wouldn't have killed him, but I did want to tie him up, at least, before we talked much more. He must have believed me, for he stopped and sighed. He turned to Shimoda. You have made your point? I think so. Thank you. The vampire looked up at me and smiled, completely at ease, enjoying himself hugely. An actor on stage when the show is over. I won't drink your blood, Richard, he said in perfect friendly English, no accent at all. As I watched, he faded, as though he was turning out his own light. In 5 seconds, he had disappeared. Shimoda sat down again by the fire. Am I ever glad you don't mean what you say? I was still trembling with adrenaline, ready for my fight with the monster. Dawn, I'm sure I'm built for this. Dawn, I'm not sure I'm built for this. Maybe you'd better tell me what's going on. Like, for instance, what was that? Dot was a vampire from Transylvania. He said the words. Dot was a vampire from Transylvania. He said the words thicker than the creature's own. Or to be more precise, Dot was a thought form of a vampire from Transylvania. If you ever want to make a point, you think somebody isn't listening, whip him up a little thought form to demonstrate what you mean. Do you think I overdid him with the cape and the fangs and the accent like that? Was he too scary for you? The cape was first class, Dawn, but that was the most stereotyped, outlandish. I wasn't scared at all. He laughed. Oh well, but you got the point at least. And that's what matters. What point? Richard, in being so fierce towards my vampire, you were doing what you wanted to do, even though you thought it was going to hurt somebody else. He even told you he'd be hurt if. He was going to suck my blood, which is what we do to anyone when we tell them we'll be hurt if they don't live our way. I love it. Hey, yay, Code, welcome. Which is what we do to anyone when we tell them we'll be hurt if they don't live our way. I was quiet for a long time, thinking about that. I'd always believed that we are free to do as we please, only if we don't hurt another. And this didn't fit. There was something missing. The thing that puzzles you, he said, is an accepted saying that happens to be impossible. The phrase is, hurt somebody else. We choose ourselves to be hurt or not to be hurt, no matter what. Us who decides, nobody else. My vampire told you he'd be hurt if you didn't let him. That's his decision to be hurt. That's his choice. What do you do about it? What you do about it is your decision, your choice. Give him blood, ignore him, tie him up, drive a stake of holly through his heart. If he doesn't want the holly stake, he's free to resist in whatever way he wants. It goes on and on, choices, choices. When you look at it like that, listen, he said, it's important. We are all free to do whatever we want to do. Chapter 14. Every person, all the events of your life are there because you have drawn them there. What you choose to do with them is up to you. Don't you get lonely, Dawn? It was at the cafe in Ryerson, Ohio, and it occurred to me to ask. I'm surprised you'd, shh, he said. I haven't finished my question. Don't you ever get just a little lonely? What you think as, wait, all these people, we see them just a few minutes. Once in a while, there's a face in the crowd, some lovely star-bright woman who makes me want to stay and say hello. Just be still and not moving and talk for a while. But she flies with me 10 minutes or so. Or she doesn't, and she's gone the next day, and I'm off to Shelbyville, and I never see her again. That's lonely. But I guess I can't find lasting friends when I'm an unlasting one myself. He was quiet. Or can I? May I talk now? I think so, yes. The hamburgers in this place were wrapped half over in thin oiled paper, and when you unwrap them, you got sesame seeds everywhere. Useless little things, but the hamburgers were good. He ate in silence for a time, and so did I, wondering what he would say. Well, Richard, we're magnets, aren't we? Not magnets. Okay, sorry. Because he contradicted himself, I got confused. Well, Richard, we're magnets, aren't we? Not magnets. We're iron wrapped in copper wire. And whenever we want to magnetize ourselves, we can. Pour our inner voltage through the wire. We can attract whatever we want to attract. A magnet is not anxious about how it works. It is itself, and by its nature, it draws some things and leaves others untouched. I ate a potato chip and frowned at him. You left one thing out. How do I do it? You don't do anything. Cosmic law, remember? Like attracts like. Just be who you are, calm and clear and bright. Automatically, as we shine who we are, asking ourselves every minute, is this what I really want to do? Doing it only when we answer yes, automatically that turns away those who have nothing to learn from who we are and attracts those who do, and from whom we have to learn as well. But that takes a lot of faith, and meanwhile, you get pretty lonely. He looked at me strangely over his hamburger. Hambug on faith. Takes zero faith. It says Hambug, hambug on faith. Takes zero faith. What it takes is imagination. He swept the table between us clean, pushing salt and French fries out of the way, ketchup, forks, and knives, so that I wondered what was going to happen, and what would be materialized before my very eyes. If you have imagination as a grain of sesame seed, he said, herding an example seed to the middle of the clearing, all things are possible to you. I looked at the sesame seed and then at him. Wish you messiahs would get together and agree. I thought the thing was faith when the world goes against me. No, I wanted to correct that when I was working, but it was a long uphill fight. 2,000 years ago, 5,000, they didn't have a word for imagination, and faith was the best way they could come up. Faith was the best they could come up with for a pretty solemn bunch of followers. Also, they didn't have sesame seeds. I knew for a fact that they had sesame seeds, but I let this lie go past. I'm supposed to imagine this magnetizing. I imagine some lovely, wise, mystical lady appearing in the hay-filled crowd in Tarragon, Illinois. I can do that, but that's all that is. That's just my imagination. He looked despairingly to heaven, represented for the moment by the tin plate ceiling and cold lights of M and Edna's cafe. Just your imagination? Of course it's your imagination. This world is your imagination. Have you forgotten where your thinking is? Where is your experience? As a man thinks, so he is. That which I feared is come upon me. Think and grow rich. Create a visualization for fun and profit. How to find friends by being who you are. Your imagining doesn't change the is one whit. Doesn't affect reality at all. But we are talking about Warner Brother worlds, MGM lifetimes, and every second of those are illusions and imaginations. All dreams with the symbols we are waking dreamers conjure for ourselves. He lined his fork and knife as though he was building a bridge from his place to mine. You wonder what your dreams say? Just as well you look at the things of your waking life and ask what they stand for. You with airplanes in your life every time you turn around. Well, Don, yes. I wished he would slow down, not pile this on me all at once. Mile a minute is too fast for new ideas. If you dreamed about airplanes, what would that mean to you? Well, freedom. Airplane dreams are escape and flight and setting myself free. How clear do you want it? The dream awake is the same. Your will to be free of all things that tie you back, routine, authority, boredom, gravity. What you haven't realized is that you're already free, and you always have been. If you had half the sesame seeds of this, you're already supreme lord of your magician's life. The magician. Only imagination. What are you saying? The waitress looked at him strangely from time to time, drying dishes, listening, puzzling over who this was. So you never get lonely, Don? I said, unless I feel like it. I have friends on other dimensions that are around me from time to time. So do you. No, I mean on this dimension, this imaginary world. Show me what you mean. Give me a little miracle of the magnet. I do want to learn this. You show me, he said. To bring anything into your life, imagine that it's already there. Like what? Like my lovely lady? Anything. Not your lady. Something small at first. I'm supposed to practice now? Yes. Okay. A blue feather. He looked at me blankly. Oh, that's like the beginning of the book. Okay. A blue feather. He looked at me blankly. Richard? A blue feather? You said anything. Not a lady. Something little. He shrugged. Fine. A blue feather. Imagine the feather. Visualize it. Every line and edge of it. The tip. V-splits where it's torn. Fluff around the quill. Just for a minute. Then let it go. I closed my eyes for a minute and saw an image in my mind, 5 inches long, iridescent blue to silver at the edges. A bright, clear feather floating there in the dark. Surround it in golden light if you want. That's a healing thing to help make it real. But it works in magnetizing too. You guys catch that? I surrounded my feather in gold glow. Okay, that's it. You can open your eyes now. I opened my eyes. Where's my feather? If you had it clear in your thought, it is even this moment barreling down on you like a Mack truck. My feather? Like a Mack truck? Figuratively, Richard. All that afternoon, I looked for the feather to appear, and it didn't. It was evening, dinner time, over a hot turkey sandwich, that I saw it. A picture and small print on the carton of milk, packaged for Scott Dairies by Blue Feather Farms, Bryan, Ohio. Don, my feather! He looked and shrugged his shoulders. I thought you wanted an actual feather. Well, any feather for openers, don't you think? Did you see just the feather all alone? Or were you holding the feather in your hand? All alone. That explains it. If you want to be with what you're magnetizing, you have to put yourself in the picture too. Sorry, I didn't say that. A spooky, strange feeling. It worked. I had consciously magnetized my first thing. Today, a feather, I said. Tomorrow, the world. Ha ha! Be careful, Richard, he said hauntingly, or you'll be sorry. Chapter 15. Hey, welcome back, Juice. Awesome. Voynich, yay. Okay, so chapter 15 starts with another lesson from the Messiah's Handbook. The truth you speak has no past and no future. It is, and that's all it needs to be. I lay on my back under the fleet, wiping oil from the lower fuselage. Somehow, the engine was throwing less oil now than it had thrown before. Shimoda flew one passenger, then came over and sat on the grass as I worked. Richard, how can you hope to impress the world when everybody else works for their living and you run around all irresponsible from day to day in your crazy biplane selling passenger rides? He was testing me again. There's a question you're going to get more than once. Just, all right. Well, Donald, part 1. I do not exist to impress the world. I exist to live my life in a way that will make me happy. Okay, part 2. Part 2. Part 2. Everybody else is free to do whatever they feel like doing for a living. Part 3. Responsible is able to respond. Response-able. Responsible is able to respond. Able to answer for the way we choose to live. There's only one person we have to answer to, of course, and that is ourselves, Don said, replying for the imaginary crowd of seekers sitting around. I don't know. That's cool. Okay. That was sort of Inception. That was like Inception, that sentence. Of everything that's happening right now and even there. Okay. We don't even have to answer to ourselves if we don't feel like it. There's nothing wrong with being irresponsible. But most of us find it more interesting to know why we act as we do, why we make our choices just so, whether we choose to watch a bird or step on an ant or work for money at something we'd rather not be doing. I winced a little. Is that too long an answer? He nodded. Way too long. Okay, how do you hope to impress the world? I rolled out from under the plane and rested for a while in the shade of the wings. How about I allow the world to live as it chooses, and I allow me to live as I choose? He threw a happy, proud smile at me, spoken like a true messiah. Simple, direct, quotable, and it doesn't answer the question unless somebody takes the time to think carefully about it. That's funny. Okay. Try me some more. It was delicious to watch my own mind work. Then we did this. Master, he said, I want to be loved. I'm kind. I do unto others as I would have them do unto me. But still, I don't have any friends, and I'm all alone. How are you going to answer that one? Beats me, I said. I don't have the foggiest idea what to tell you. What? Just a little humor, Dawn. Liven up the evening. A little harmless change of pace there. You best be plenty careful how you liven up the evenings. Problems are not jokes and games to the people who come to you, unless they are highly advanced themselves. And that sort know they're their own messiah. You are being given the answers, so speak them out. Try that beats me stuff, and you'll see how fast a mob can burn a man at the stake. I drew myself up proudly. Seeker, thou comest to me for an answer, and unto thee I do answer. The golden rule doesn't work. How would you like to meet a masochist who did unto others as he would have them do unto him? Oh my gosh, that must be where I got that. I think about that all the time. Or a serial killer, right? Or maybe just because it is, and right, just like things are. Maybe that's why. Okay. Or worshiper of the crocodile god, who craves the honor of being thrown alive into the pit. Even the Sumerian, who started the whole thing. What made him think that the man he found lying at the roadside wanted to have oil poured in his wounds? What if the man was using those quiet moments to heal himself spiritually, enjoying the challenge of it? It sounded convincing to me. I sounded convincing to me. Even if the rule was changed to do unto others as they want to be done to, we can't know how anybody but ourselves wants to be done to. What the rule means and how we apply it honestly is this: do unto others as you truly feel like doing unto others. Meet the masochist with this rule, and you do not have to flog him with his whip simply because that is what he would want you to do unto him. Nor are you required to throw the worshiper to the crocodiles. I looked at him. Too wordy? As always, Richard. You're going to lose 90% of your audience unless you learn to keep it short. Well, what's wrong with losing 90% of my audience? I shot back at him. What's wrong with losing all my audience? I know what I know, and I talk what I talk. And if that's wrong, then that's just too bad. The airplane rides are $3 cash. You know what? Shimoda stood up, brushing the hay off his blue jeans. What? I said petulantly. You just graduated. How does it feel to be a master? Frustrating as hell. He looked at me with an infinitesimal smile. You get used to it, he said. Here's another quote from the Messiah Handbook. Here is a test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't. Oh, yeah. Okay. Interesting, right? Okay, so 16. Hardware stores are always long places, shelves going back into forever. Oh. Oops, okay. In Hayward Hardware, I had gone hunting back in the dim, needing 3/8-inch nuts and bolts and lock washers for the tail skid of the fleet. Shimoda browsed patiently as I looked, since of course he didn't need anything from a hardware store. The whole economy would collapse, I thought, if everybody was like him, making whatever they wanted out of thought forms and thin air, repairing things without parts or labor, when in fact we actually are all just like him, right? We just don't know it. Or maybe we do. At least I found the half dozen bolts I needed and journeyed with them back toward the counter, where the owner had some soft music playing, Greensleeves. It was a melody that has haunted me happily since I was a boy, played now on a lute over some hidden sound system. Strange to find it Strange to find in a town of 400 souls. I always liked Greensleeves too. Turned out it was strange for Hayward too, for it wasn't a sound system at all. The owner sat tilted back on his wooden stool at the counter. I listened to the Messiah play the notes on a cheap six-string guitar from the sale shelf. It was a lovely sound, and I stood quiet there, paying my 73 cents and being haunted again by the tune. Perhaps it was the tinny quality of the cheap instrument, but it still sounded far misty, other century England. Donald, that's beautiful. I didn't know you could play the guitar. You didn't? Then you think somebody could have walked up to Jesus, the Christ, and handed him a guitar, and he would have said, I can't play that thing? Would he have said that? Shimoda put the guitar back in its place and walked out into the sunlight with me. Or if somebody came by who spoke Russian or Prussian, do you think any master worth his aura would not know what he was saying? Or if he wanted to skin a D10 cat or fly an airplane, that he couldn't do it? So you really know all things, don't you? You do too, of course. I just know that I know all things. I could play the guitar like that. No, you have your own style, different from mine. How do you know that? How do I know that? I wasn't going to run back and buy the guitar. I was just curious. Just give up all your inhibitions and all your beliefs that you can't play. Touch the thing as though it was a part of your life, which it is, in some alternate lifetime. Know that it's all right for you to play it well, and let your non-conscious self take over your fingers and play. I had read something about that, hypnotic learning, where students were told they were masters of art and so played and painted and wrote like master artists. That's a hard thing, Dawn, to let go of my knowing that I can't play a guitar. Then it will be a hard thing for you to play a guitar. It will take years of practice before you give yourself permission to do it right, before your self-conscious mind tells you that you have suffered enough to have earned the right to play well. Right? All these things, right? Okay. Why didn't it take me long to learn how to fly? That's supposed to be hard, but I picked it up pretty fast. Did you want to fly? Nothing else mattered more than anything. I was looking down on clouds and the chimney smoke in the mornings, going right straight up to the calm, and I could see, oh, I get your point. You're going to say, you never felt that way about guitars, did you? You never felt that way about guitars, did you? And this sinking feeling I have right now, Dawn, tells me that is how you learn to fly. You just got into the travel air one day and you flew it. Never been up in an airplane before. Me? You were intuitive. You didn't take the flying test for your license? No, wait. You don't even have a license, do you? A regular flying license. Oh. He looked at me strangely, the whisper of a smile, as though I had dared him to come up with a license, and he knew that he could do it. You mean a piece of paper, Richard? That kind of license? Yes, the piece of paper. I forgot about this. He didn't reach into his pocket or bring out his wallet. He just opened his right hand, and there was a flying license, as though he had been carrying it around, waiting for me to ask. It wasn't faded or bent, and I thought that 10 seconds ago it hadn't existed at all. But I took it and looked. It was an official pilot certificate, Department of Transportation seal on it, Donald William Shimoda, with an Indiana address, licensed commercial pilot with ratings for single and multiple engine land airplanes, instruments, and gliders. You don't have your seaplane ratings or helicopter. I'll have those if I need to have them, he said, so mysteriously that I burst out laughing before he did. Laughing. The man sweeping the walk in front of the International Harvester place looked at us and smiled too. What about me? I said. I want my airline transport rating. You're going to have to forge your own licenses, he said. Oh, we're getting so close. Chapter 17. On the Jeff Skies radio talk show, I saw a Donald Shimoda I had never seen before. The show began at 9 p.m. and went till midnight. From a room no bigger than a watchmaker's, lined about with dials and knobs and racks of tape cartridge commercial spots. Skies opened by asking if there wasn't something illegal about flying around the country in an ancient airplane, taking people for rides. The answer is no. There is nothing illegal about it. The planes are inspected as carefully as any jet transport. They are safer and stronger than most steel metal modern airplanes, and all that's needed is a license and a farmer's permission. But Shimoda didn't say that. No one can stop us from doing what we want to do, Jeff, he said. Now that is quite true, but it had none of the tact that is called for when you are talking with a radio audience that is wondering what is going on. These airplanes flying around. A minute after he said that, the call director telephone began lighting up on Sky's desk. We have a caller on line 1, Sky said. Go ahead, ma'am. Am I on the air? Yes, ma'am. You are on the air, and our guest is Mr. Donald Shimoda, the airplane flyer. Go ahead. You are on the air. Well, I'd like to tell that fellow that not everybody gets to do what they want to do, and that some people have to work for their living and hold down a little more responsibility than flying around with some carnival. The people who work for a living are doing what they most want to do, Shimoda said, just as much as the people who play for a living. Scripture says, by the sweat of thy brow shalt thou earn thy bread, and in sorrow shalt thou eat of it. We're free to do that too if we want. Do your thing. I get so tired of people like you saying, do your thing. Do your thing. You let everybody run wild and they'll destroy the world. They are destroying the world right now. Look at what is happening to the green living things and the rivers and the oceans. She gave him 50 different openings to reply, and he ignored them all. It's okay if the world is destroyed, he said. There are 1,000 million other worlds for us to create and choose from. As long as people want planets, there will be planets to live on. Ah! Okay. That was hardly calculated to soothe the caller. And I looked at Shimoda, astonished. He was speaking from his viewpoint of perspectives over lots of lifetimes, learnings only a master can expect to recall. The caller was naturally assuming that the discussion had to do with the reality of this one world. Birth is the beginning and death is the end. He knew that. Why did he ignore it? Everything's okay, is it? The caller said into her telephone. There's no evil in this world, no sin going on all around us. That doesn't bother you, does it? Nothing there to be bothered about, ma'am. We see just one little fleck of the whole that is life. And that one fleck is fake. Everything balances, and nobody suffers, and nobody dies without their consent. Nobody does what they don't want to do. There is no good and there is no evil outside of what makes us happy and what makes us unhappy. None of it was making the lady on the phone any calmer. But she broke suddenly and said simply, how do you know all these things you say? How do you know what you say is true? I don't know if they're true, he said. I believe them because it's fun to believe them. I narrowed my eyes. He could have said that he had tried it and it works. The healings, the miracles, the practical living that made this thinking true and workable. But why didn't he say that? Why? There was a reason. I held my eyes barely open, most of the room gray, just a blurred, fuzzy image of Shimoda leaning to talk into the microphone. He was saying all these things straight out, offering no choices, making no effort to help the poor listeners understand. Anybody who's ever mattered, anybody who's ever been happy, anybody who's ever given any gift to the world has been a divinely selfish soul, living for his own best interests, no exceptions. It was a male caller next, while the evening fled by. Selfish, mister, do you know what the Antichrist is? For a second, Shimoda smiled. For a second, Shimoda smiled and relaxed in his chair. It was as if he knew the caller personally. Perhaps you could tell me, he said. Christ said that we have to live for our fellow man. Antichrist said be selfish, live for yourself, and let other people go to hell. Or heaven, or whatever else they feel like going. You are dangerous. Do you know that, mister? What if everybody listened to you and did just whatever they felt like doing? What do you think would happen then? I think that this would probably be the happiest planet in this part of the galaxy, he said. Mister, I am not sure I want my children to hear what you are saying. What is it that your children want to hear? If we are all free to do whatever we want to do, then I'm free to come out in that field with my shotgun and blow your head off. Of course you're free to do that. There was a heavy click on the line. Somewhere in town, there was at least one angry man. The others, and the angry woman too, were on the telephone. Every button on the machine was lit and flashing. It didn't have to go that way. He could have said the same things differently and ruffled no feathers at all. Sifting back over me was the same feeling I had in Troy when the crowd broke and surrounded him. It was time. It was clearly time for us to be moving along. The handbook was no help. There in the studio. And this is what it says. In order to live free and happily, you must sacrifice boredom. It is not always an easy sacrifice. Jeff Skies had told everybody who were... Jeff Skies had told everybody who we were, that our airplanes were parked on John Thomas's hayfield on State 41, and that we slept nights under the wing. I felt these waves of anger from people frightened for their children's morality and for the future of the American way of life, and none of it made me too happy. There was a half hour left in the show, and it only got worse. You know, mister, I think you're a fake, said the next caller. Of course I'm a fake. We're all fakes on this whole world. We're all pretending to be something that we're not. We are not bodies walking around. We are not atoms and molecules. We are unkillable, undestroyable ideas of the is, no matter how much we believe otherwise. He would have been the first to remind me that I was free to leave if I didn't like what he was saying. And he would have laughed at my fears of lynch mobs waiting with torches at the airplanes. Chapter 18. Don't be dismayed at goodbyes. A farewell is necessary before you can meet again. And meeting again after moments or lifetimes is certain for those who are friends. I've taken a picture of that a lot. That little blurb right there. Hey, Tanya, welcome. Did I see a mic in Florida? Or no, maybe. Okay, 18. We're getting so close, you guys. We're just about at the end of this brilliant book. Okay. Next noon, before the people came to fly, he stopped by my wing. Remember what you said when you found my problem? That nobody would listen, no matter how many miracles I did? No. Do you remember that time, Richard? Yeah, I remember the time. You looked so lonely all of a sudden. I don't remember what I said. You said that depending on people to care about what I say is depending on somebody else for my happiness. Boom. That's what I came here to learn. It doesn't matter whether I communicate or not. I choose this whole lifetime to share with anybody the way the world is put together. And I might as well have chosen it to say nothing at all. The is doesn't need me to tell anybody how it works. That's obvious, Dawn. I could have told you that. Thanks a lot. I find the one idea I lived this life to find. Thanks a lot. I find the one idea I've lived this life to find. I finish a whole life's work, and he says, that's obvious, Dawn. He was laughing, but he was sad too. And at the time, I couldn't tell why. Chapter 19. The mark of your ignorance is the depth of your belief in injustice and tragedy. Ooh. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. I'm reading that again. The mark of your ignorance is the depth of your belief in infinite. Oh, son of a gun. The mark of your ignorance is the depth of your belief in injustice and tragedy. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. The words in the handbook the day before were the only warning I had. 1 second, there was a normal little crowd waiting to fly, his airplane taxiing in, stopping by them in a whirl of propeller wind. A casual good sense for me from the top wing of the fleet as I poured gas into the tank. The next second, there was a sound like a tire exploding, and the crowd itself exploded and ran. The tire on the Travel Air was untouched. The engine ticked over at idle, as it had a moment before. But there was a foot-wide hole in the fabric under the pilot's cockpit, and Shimoda was pressed in the other side. Head slammed down, his body still as sudden death. It took a few thousandths of a second for me to realize that Donald Shimoda had been shot. Another to drop the gas can and jump off the top wing, running. It was like some movie script, some amateur acted play. A man with a shotgun running away with everyone else. Close enough by me, I could have cut him with a saber. I remember now that I didn't care about him. I was not enraged or shocked or horrified. The only thing that mattered was to get to the cockpit of the Travel Air as fast as I could and to talk with my friend. It looked as if he had been hit by a bomb. The left half of his body was all torn, leather and cloth, and meat and blood, a soggy mass of scarlet. His head was tilted down by the fuel primer knob at the right lower corner of the instrument panel. And I thought that if he had been wearing his shoulder harness, he wouldn't have been thrown forward like that. Wow, I've never gotten emotional like this during this part. How crazy. I mean, you know it's coming, right? Don, are you okay? Fool's words. He opened his eyes and smiled. His own blood was sprayed wet across his face. Richard, what does it look like? Oh my God, I totally forgot. Fuckers. Ah! Richard, what does it look like? I was enormously relieved to hear him talk. If he could think, he would be all right. Well, oh wait, if I didn't know better, buddy, I'd say you had a bit of a problem. He didn't move, except just his head a little bit, and suddenly I was scared again, more by his stillness than by the mess of the blood. I didn't think you had enemies. I don't. That was a friend. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm all over the place. I don't. That was a friend. Just like those contracts, right? Better not to have. Some hater bring all sorts of trouble into his life, murdering me. So it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. The seat and side panels of the cockpit were running with blood. It would be a big job just to get the Travel Air clean again, although the airplane itself wasn't damaged badly. Did this have to happen, Don? No, he said faintly, barely breathing, but I think I like the drama. Well, let's get cracking. Heal yourself. With the crowd that's coming, we got lots of flying to do. But as I was joking with him, and in spite of all his knowing and all his understanding of reality, my friend Donald Shimoda fell the last inch to the primer knob and died. There was a roaring in my ears. The world tilted, and I slid down the side. Death. And I slid down the side. How weird. Okay. I slid down the side of the torn fuselage into the wet red grass. I felt as if the weight of the handbook in my pocket toppled me to my side. What the heck? And as I hit the ground, It fell loose. Wind slowly ruffling the pages. I picked up listlessly. Is this how it ends, I thought? Is everything a master says just pretty words that can't save him from the first attack of some mad dog in a farmer's field? I had to read 3 times before I could believe these were the words on the page. Everything in this book may be wrong. End. Epilogue. By autumn, I had flown south with the warm air. Good fields were few, but the crowds got bigger all the time. People had always liked to fly in the biplane, and these days, more of them were staying to talk and to toast marshmallows over the campfire. Ooh, let me get it together. Okay. Once in a while, somebody who hadn't really been much sick said they felt better for talking. And the people next day would look at me strangely, move closer, curious. More than once, I flew away early. No miracles happened. Although the fleet was running better than ever, she had on less gas. She had stopped throwing oil, stopped killing bugs on her propeller and windscreen. The colder air, no doubt, or the little fellas getting smart enough to dodge. Still, one river of time had stopped for me that summer noon when Shimoda had been shot. It was an ending I could neither believe nor understand. It was stalled there, and I lived it 1,000 times again, hoping it might somehow change. It never did. What was I supposed to learn that day? One night, late in October, after I got scared and left a crowd in Mississippi, I came down in a little empty space just big enough to land the fleet. Once again, before I slept, I thought back to the last moment. Why did he die? There was no reason for it, if what he said was true. There was no one now to talk with as we had talked, no one to learn from, no one to stalk and attract with my words, to sharpen my new bright mind against myself. Myself, yes, but it wasn't half as fun that Shimoda had been, who taught by keeping me always off balance with his spiritual karate. Thinking this, I slept, and sleeping, dreamed. He was kneeling on the grass of a meadow, his back to me, patching the hole in the side of the travel air where the shotgun blast had been. There was a roll of grade A aircraft fabric and a can of butyrate dope by his knee. I knew that I was dreaming, and I also knew that it was real. Dawn! He stood slowly and turned to face me, smiling at my sorrow and my joy. Hi, fella, he said. I couldn't see for tears. There is no dying. There is no dying at all. And this man was my friend. Dude, the emotions, right? Donald, you're alive. What are you trying to do? I ran and threw my arms around him, and he was real. I could feel the leather of his flying jacket, crush his arms inside it. Hi, he said. Do you mind? What I am trying to do is patch this hole here. I was so glad to see him. Nothing was impossible. With the dope and fabric, I said. With dope and fabric, you're trying to fix? You don't do it that way. You see it perfect, already done. And as I said the words, I passed my hand like a screen in front of the ragged, bloody hole, and when my hand moved, the hole was gone. There was just pure mirror-painted airplane left, seamless fabric from nose to tail. So that's how you do it, he said, his dark eyes proud of the slow learner who made good at last as a mental mechanic. Haha, mental mechanic. I didn't find it strange. In the dream, That was the way to do the job. There was a morning fire by the wing and a frying pan balanced over it. You're cooking something, Dawn. You know, I've never seen you cook anything. What you got? Pan bread, he said matter-of-factly. The one last thing I want to do in your life is show you how this is done. He cut 2 pieces with his pocket knife and handed me one. The flavor is still with me as I write. The flavor of straw dust and old library paste warmed in lard. What do you think? He said. Dawn. The Phantom's Revenge. He grinned at me. I made it with plaster. He put his part back into the pan to remind you, if ever you want to move somebody to learn, do it with your knowing and not with your pan bread, okay? No. Love me. Love my pan bread. It's the stuff of life, Dawn. Very well. But I guarantee your first supper with anybody is going to be your last if you feed them that stuff. We laughed and were quiet. And I looked at him in the silence. Dawn, you're all right, aren't you? You expect me to be dead? Come now, Richard. And this is not a dream. I won't forget seeing you now. No, this is a dream. It's a different space-time, and any different space-time is a dream for a good, sane earthling, which you are going to be for a while. But you will remember, and that will change your thinking and your life. Will I see you again? Are you coming back? I don't think so. I want to get beyond times and spaces. I already am, as a matter of fact. But there is this link between us, between you and me and the others of our family. You get stopped by some problems. Hold it in your head and go to sleep, and we'll meet here by the airplane and talk about it if you want. Sweet. Dawn, what? Why the shotgun? Why did that happen? I don't see any power and glory in getting your heart blown out by a shotgun. He sat down in the grass by the wing. Since I was not a front page messiah, Richard, I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. And since you need the practice in being unflustered by appearances and unsaddened by them, he said heavily, you could use some gory appearances for your training. And fun for me too. Dying is like diving into a lake on a hot day. There's the shock of that sharp, cold change, the pain of it for a second, and then accepting in a swim in reality. And then accepting is the swim in reality. But after so many times, even the shock wears off. After a long moment, he stood. Only a few people are interested in what you have to say, but that's all right. You don't tell the quality of a master by the size of his crowds, remember. Dawn, I'll try it. I promise. But I'll run away forever as soon as I stop having fun with the job. Nobody touched the travel air, but its propeller turned. Its engine pouted cold blue smoke, and the rich sound of it filled the meadow. Promise accepted, but... And he looked at me and smiled as if he didn't understand me. Accepted by what? Speak, words, tell me, what's wrong? You don't like crowds, he said. Not pulling at me, no. I like talk and ideas back and forth, but the worship thing you went through and the dependence. I trust you're not asking me. I've already run away. Maybe I'm just dumb, Richard. And maybe I don't see something obvious that you see very well. And if I don't see it, will you please tell me? But what is wrong with writing it down on paper? Is there a rule that a messiah can't write what he thinks is true? The things that have been fun for him, that work for him? And then maybe if people don't like what he says, instead of shooting him, they can burn his words, hit the ashes with a stick. And if they do like it, they can read the words another time, or write them on a refrigerator door, or play with whatever ideas make sense to them. Is there something wrong with writing? But maybe I'm just dumb. In a book? Why not? Do you know how much work? I promised never to write another word again in my life. Oh, sorry, he said. There you have it. I didn't know that. He stepped on the lower wing of the airplane and then into the cockpit, Well, see you around. Hang in there and all that. Don't let the crowds get to you. You don't want to write it. You're sure? Never, I said. Never another word. He shrugged and pulled on his flying gloves, pressed the throttle forward, and the sound of the engine burst and swirled around me until I woke under the wing of the fleet, with the echoes of the dream still in my ears. I was alone. The field was as silent as green autumn snow, soft over the dawn of the world. And then, for the fun of it, before I was fully awake, I reached for my journal and began to write. The Messiah, in the world of others, about my friend. Number 1, there was a Messiah come unto the earth, born in the holy land of Indiana. The end. Ah, dang, you alls. That's how the book starts, by the way. If you didn't go and if you didn't see the first part, it's so good. Dang, thanks for being here with me. I'm glad because it has been over a year since I read this book again, all the way through. And it is powerful. Dang, right? More than a great national bestseller, a great way of looking at life. Oh, so good. My own tears are dropped on my shirt. Hey, it was of the moment. So yeah, y'alls, I got a lot to get into now today. Got to upload that video to Alley Cat Arcana. And I'm not certain what book I'm going to be getting into this next week, but I am. Look at all these things. There's too many. There's too many. So I love ya. And yeah, it's not a big book. I recommend everybody own it. So thank you. I love you. And I'll see you soon. I'll see you so soon in one of these chats somewhere in this next couple of days. And yeah, check out Alley Cat Arcana. I love you. Mwah. And yeah, until next time. Peace.